Welcome to the Smart Keys podcast. Today, we are taking a really necessary strategic deep dive into material from smartkeys.org. We're focusing on one topic that I think really dictates modern business success, and that's choosing the right communication channel. It sounds so simple, but deciding between email, chat, or a meeting, it might be the single most critical factor in driving professional efficiency.
It absolutely is. I mean, we're really past the point where these choices can be based on, just personal habit or convenience.
We're all drowning in notifications.
We are. And for professionals listening, this deep dive is all about changing a reactive habit. That default, I'll just send a quick chat, into a proactive system.
So it's a strategic choice.
It's a practical strategic choice. It has to be based on the outcome you want, your time management, and most importantly, making sure the message lands exactly as you intended.
And if the goal is speed and retention, the channel has to actually support that.
It has to.
The sources make a really compelling case that the right channel doesn't just help people act faster, it also makes sure critical info is, searchable and easy to find later. This isn't soft skills, this is business efficiency.
And you can actually measure the cost of getting it wrong. The data we pulled is, it's pretty sobering.
I saw the number. It's staggering.
Miscommunication costs the U.S. economy up to $1.2 trillion annually.
1.2 trillion.
That isn't just lost time. It's lost opportunities. It's lost trust. It's massive, massive friction in how we operate.
But on the flip side, the strategic upside is equally compelling. And thankfully, it's also measurable.
Right.
The source material shows that the payoff for clarity it's substantial. 72% of leaders say that better internal messaging directly raises productivity.
And 60% report higher employee confidence, which makes perfect sense, right?
Yeah.
When people know where to look and what to do, they move with focus.
Which brings us to the core of the strategy. You can't pick a channel until you define your intent.
That's the pivot point. We always leap to the message without framing the purpose first.
So, before anything else, what are those key intentions that professionals need to choose from?
You have to label your goal. Are you informing, requesting something, deciding, aligning a team, or are you escalating an issue?
That framework seems critical.
It is. When you name that intent, that single actionable goal, before you start writing, you can match the message to the need and then match the right channel to the person who needs to act.
And if you don't define that intent, you just default to the wrong tool. And that leads to, a chain of rework or...
Or worse, a completely pointless meeting that wastes everyone's time. The goal is simple. Prevent that rework by matching the message's complexity, its urgency, and its sensitivity to the right channel.
Okay, so let's get into the specifics then. The channel deployment. The sources offer really clear guidance. Let's start with email.
Right, email. Think of it as your long-term memory system. You use email when you need a durable, a searchable record.
The official paper trail.
Exactly, or you're sending attachments or managing communication across, a bunch of different time zones.
I also saw the source material pointed out that email is ideal for project plans with a lot of complex dependencies. Why that specifically?
Because it's a self-serve archive. If you put a complex plan, who owns what, by when, how it all connects into an email. Anyone can go back to it in 3 months and get the full context without having to interrupt anybody else. It's a single source of truth. You can't get that from a chat message that disappears.
Okay, so now let's contrast that with chat. Slack or Teams. It feels like that's built for a completely different muscle.
A totally different muscle. Speed, rapid coordination. Chat is for those quick decisions that unblock a teammate who's stuck, or for urgent status updates, short questions.
But the source material really emphasizes a key habit there, right? Thread management.
Oh, absolutely. Keep threads focused on one single topic. Make sure there's one clear owner and a tight deadline. Without that discipline, chat just becomes constant, noisy distraction. It actually slows you down.
And then finally, the tool we're all trying to use less of, meetings. The guidance is to reserve these for very specific, high-leverage activities.
They're a scarce resource. You have to treat them that way. Meetings are for alignment, for sensitive topics where you need to see nonverbal cues, or for solving truly complex ideas together in real time.
So like those thorny trade-offs between two good options.
Exactly. That requires a meeting. You can't solve that over chat.
And the preparation outlined here seems Well, non-negotiable if you're going to justify taking up that time.
It has to be. The sources demand it. A defined goal, a strict agenda, and often pre-read materials so everyone shows up with the same context. And crucially, the meeting isn't over when the time's up.
It's over when the outcomes are documented.
When the outcomes and the owners are documented and sent out, that's the end of the meeting.
This all seems to lead to what the source calls the async first decision flow. It sounds efficient, but I have to ask, how do you stop that from just becoming analysis paralysis? Where everyone is just waiting on some perfect document and things actually slow down.
That's a great question. And the flow itself is the protection against that paralysis. You have to quickly assess three things: urgency, complexity and sensitivity, and the feedback you need.
So give me an example.
Okay. If the message is low complexity and high urgency, a quick 2-sentence update, it goes straight to chat. No hesitation. The friction only happens when people try to force a really complex, sensitive discussion into a quick chat message. That's where things fall apart.
So if the cost of a delay is low, but the complexity is high, you favor an async channel, like email, to save everyone's calendar.
Right.
But if the cost of delay is massive, that's when you hit the big red button for a meeting.
Precisely. You favor async first unless the cost of delay or the risk of misunderstanding outweighs the time you're saving. You have to be ruthlessly pragmatic about which tool serves the goal.
Okay, so we've nailed the intent, we've picked the channel, now we're in the execution phase. The pre-send scan to make sure the message is, well, flawless. The source gives us the 5 C's checklist.
The 5 C's, yes. This is your immediate quality control. Clear, correct, complete, concise, and compassionate. It's not just a nice mnemonic, it's a filter to prevent confusion.
So let's break that down. How does a professional turn that list into an actual behavior?
You start with the most important C, clear. The guidance says you must lead with the ask. State the one action, the date it's due, and who owns it. All in the first sentence or two.
Because if I have to read 3 paragraphs to figure out what you want from me.
The message has already failed. It's failed the clear test, absolutely.
Okay, now what about complete and concise? They feel like they're in tension with each other, don't they? How do you keep it short, but also give enough context?
That tension is where the skill comes in. You keep it concise by trimming all the filler words, all the jargon, but you make it complete by anticipating the questions someone's going to have.
So you're pre-answering their follow-ups.
Yeah. Exactly. Add brief context, maybe a link to a doc or a prior decision. If you can answer their 5 most likely questions before they even think to ask them, you've achieved concise completeness.
And the last C, the one that's often overlooked. Compassionate. This is about tone, which is so hard to manage in writing.
It is. Compassionate messaging just means choosing language that respects the other person's time and their feelings. It recognizes that every message you send is an interruption.
The source material had a great example of this.
It did. Transforming that vague, anxiety-inducing note like, can we talk about the project?
I hate getting those messages.
Everyone does. You turn that into a clear, actionable ask. Can we meet for 30 minutes on Tuesday to decide on the Q3 budget? Please review the pre-read by 5 p.m. Monday. That respects their time. It gives them everything they need to prepare and act.
Okay, that covers the sender's job. But communication is a two-way street. The sources put a huge emphasis on the receiving end, specifically on active listening.
Yes.
What separates real active listening from just, waiting for your turn to talk?
Active listening is about engaged presence. It's about showing you're processing and confirming the information, not just hearing sounds. It's a known catalyst for building psychological safety.
Which improves team results and reduces mistakes.
Because people feel genuinely heard.
So practically, what are the cues the sources suggest we use to show we're actively listening?
Paraphrasing is key. Using simple phrases like, okay, so what I'm hearing is that we need to prioritize X over Y. That confirms meaning before you act.
And asking focused questions.
Focused questions to test your assumptions rather than just jumping to a solution. And, this is a big one, manage silence. Let people finish their thoughts completely. Don't interrupt.
Which brings us to a fascinating, almost counterintuitive detail from the source. The right ear advantage. Can you explain this?
This gets into the neurobiology of it all. The source suggests that because your right ear is primarily connected to the left side of your brain, which processes speech and logic, but also vocal tone, that favoring your right ear can actually help you detect nuance faster. When you're listening for urgency or hesitation or confidence, you're listening for tone, not just the words. It's an awareness of how we process these cues.
That awareness is so critical
Hmm.
because even when we're just typing, we're still human. We
Yeah.
rely so much on nonverbal input. And this leads to the famous 55387 rule. Let's define that clearly.
Right. So the 55387 rule says that in face-to-face communication, 55% of the impact comes from nonverbal cues, your body language.
55%.
The majority. The vast majority. 38% is from your tone of voice paralanguage, and only 7% is from the actual words you say. Even on a video call, those nonverbals carry most of the weight.
So what are the strategic changes we need to make, even on a screen, to make sure our body language is actually helping and not hurting?
Your framing on video matters a lot. You want to frame your upper body and keep the camera at eye level. Looking up or down at someone actually degrades trust.
And posture.
Use an open stance, steady eye contact, maybe a slight lean forward to show you're engaged. And avoid the obvious dismissal signals, like crossing your arms, checking your phone, fidgeting. It just contradicts whatever you're saying.
This all brings up a really important point about leadership. It's not enough to have these frameworks. Leaders have to model this behavior and actively reduce friction in the organization.
Leaders set the standard. They absolutely have to. They must make context visible, share the why behind decisions, and actively invite people to respond. They have to normalize respectful debate.
And what about when conflict comes up, which it always does in high-stakes work? How does a leader use this to navigate that productively?
They have to use assertiveness without aggression. That means reframing the conflict away from people and focusing it on shared goals and constraints.
So instead of saying, your idea is wrong,
Right. A leader guides the conversation by asking, okay, given our budget constraint, what are the trade-offs between option A and option B? That turns a fight into a productive exploration of options.
okay, so we've covered the strategy, the execution, the leadership side. Let's talk about making these habits stick for the long term, across teams, time zones, cultures. This needs durable skills, not just temporary fixes.
Absolutely. Training on active listening and conflict resolution, that has the biggest long-term impact. They're relationship-building tools. But you also need some infrastructure.
Like reusable templates.
Exactly. Reusable templates for decision memos, for status updates, for meeting notes. That creates consistency no matter who is writing.
The power of ritual seems to be a big theme here. What are some small, repeatable rituals a team could start tomorrow?
Small, focused rituals compound. Daily async stand-ups in chat instead of a meeting is a huge one. Another is just maintaining a shared glossary of terms to cut down on jargon. It helps onboard new people so much faster.
And before sending any high-stakes message, the source recommends one last quick checklist: subject, purpose, context, the specific ask, deadline, and owner. That little ritual just cuts out ambiguity before you even hit send.
We have to get past seeing communication as just some administrative task. We have to elevate it to what it is, a strategic asset. By making these simple habits stick, you maximize that asset and you start to chip away at that $1.2 trillion in waste.
So here is your final actionable routine to turn this all into action today. First, define your intent. Are you informing, deciding, aligning? Second, pick the right channel. Email for records, chat for speed, meetings for alignment.
Third, apply the 5Cs checklist. Make sure it's clear, correct, complete, concise, and compassionate.
And finally, always close the loop with documented owners and timelines. This little routine is what turns a simple note into a tangible action.
And if we connect this back to the ultimate goal, the source suggests that teams should monitor their channel health every month. Use quick pulse surveys on clarity and on trust. And this raises a final question for you to think about this week. How can you start effectively measuring and adapting your team's communication rituals based on those concrete metrics of clarity and trust? How do you make sure these essential habits actually endure long after this conversation is over? That's how you future-proof your organization.